Thanks, Scott. This week, the FDA confirmed the safety and effectiveness of the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine. The announcement came hours after Britain started administering that same vaccine. Joining me now is pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson. Dr. Grayson, thank you for joining us again. So they started administering it in Britain. There were a couple of situations where people with high allergies had a little bit of anaphylactic shock coming from it. Are you concerned that we may be pushing this vaccine too quickly?
No, Eric, I'm not. There were two instances of people that had what's called anaphylactoid reaction. So not truly anaphylactic shock, but these were in two healthcare workers who were vaccinated among many, many thousands of people, in fact, tens of thousands of people who have received the vaccine thus far. So that's, I believe, over 42,000 people have gotten it. So these were people who had a history of very severe allergies, things like bee sting allergies. They carried an EpiPen with them. So now the recommendation is, at least in Great Britain, I anticipate the same thing here in the US, that those getting the vaccine, number one, if they have this severe allergic reaction, a history of that, they should not get the Pfizer vaccine. And then secondly, that the vaccine should be administered in a place where you can resuscitate someone really quickly if they happen to have this severe reaction. But I want to emphasize, Eric, that this was extremely rare. Over 42,000 people got the vaccine. We're talking 2 people in 42,000. So this is not rushing it too quickly. I think that when you think about the overall benefit risk, boy, the benefit with this vaccine, 95% effective, and 94% effective in people over the age of 65. I think the data look quite strong.
Let's talk a little bit about that, what that actually means, Doctor. 94, 95% effectiveness, but it's not effective in preventing one from getting the disease. It's effective from preventing one from getting severe symptoms from the vaccine. Am I right?
Well, it does reduce your risk of getting symptoms. It does reduce your risk of getting symptoms as well. What we don't know yet, Eric, is whether or not the vaccine prevents transmission from people who are asymptomatic. So that's something we don't know yet. The strong suspicion is that it likely does, because people are likely not shedding as much virus, so therefore they're likely less contagious. But that takes a little bit more time to sort out, because you're now looking at secondary infections. So people who were in the trial, did any of their contacts get sick? So that'll take a little bit more time to sort out. But again, I do anticipate that those data will look strong.
Here's what I'm getting at. As someone who, I've never had a flu shot in my life. I hate the idea of doing it. This, I think I would do if it were available. I still need to read more about it. But wouldn't it make sense to wait till you start to experience symptoms to go and get this vaccine to kind of mute the symptoms, rather than, we don't know if it's not prophylactic to getting the disease, is it?
Well, it is, Eric. In fact, so the way the vaccine works is you have to get it in advance. The way it works is you need, with this specific one, with Pfizer's vaccine, it requires 2 shots spaced out 21 days apart, so 3 weeks apart. Another company, Johnson & Johnson, is developing a 1-shot vaccine approach as well. So actually, it takes some time for your body's immune system to ramp up. So it's not like you get the shot and then immediately you're now immune to the virus. So it takes several weeks. And in fact, they start the clock for immunity 1 week after the second dose. So really, it's basically a month after you start getting those 2 doses of the vaccine before you're really considered to start having immunity to the virus. So you don't want to wait. Definitely don't wait until you have symptoms, because it's way too late then to get the vaccine. This is very much a preventive measure, like most other vaccines are.
So unless I'm mistaken, still the average age of someone who dies of COVID is near 80. The question is, for younger people, healthier people, does it make sense to get this vaccine, or to experience the COVID? You're likely going to survive it. Aren't you going to be healthier on the backside of that, having survived actually getting COVID and surviving it, rather than being vaccinated from it?
Boy, that's a pretty easy choice. The vaccines win hands down, Eric, because it's not just the death toll from this virus. We have there's a lot of long-term complications from this virus, and it's a brand new disease. I think I want to emphasize that for those who are watching. So we're learning things that are new all the time as more and more people are infected. We're now learning there are significant long-term consequences. For example, a substantial amount of people have long-term neurologic problems. we're not talking 5 or 10%. We're talking 20, 30%, even more of people who even had mild symptoms will have things like ongoing headache, chronic fatigue, and other more serious neurologic complications. There have even been case reports, for example, a different type of of adverse effect long-term from COVID. There have been cases of men having erectile dysfunction. These are young, healthy men who, unfortunately, this virus affects the vascular system. So there's a whole host of things that, yes, you may survive, but you also may have other challenges that could take many, many weeks, months, if not last your entire lifetime. Whereas the vaccine is really very, very likely the much safer and more effective bet as well, as far as getting immunity.
That we're going to leave it right there. I don't want anyone to email me or call. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I get it. I'm just a skeptic, because a lot of times we say things are safe, and later on down the road we're not so sure if they're safe, and we sometimes have to pull drugs off. Doctor, I do get it though. The risks of getting this far outweigh the risks of the vaccine being deadly at this point right now. Dr. Dena Grayson, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Eric.